Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. The Union Budget 2026-27 puts a sharp spotlight on ease of doing business, positioning it as a key driver of growth, investment and competitiveness. This year's announcements focus on four big pillars: digitisation, tax certainty, lower compliance burden and trust-based governance. A single interconnected digital window for cargo clearances and a new customs integrated system aim to make trade faster and more transparent. Trusted importers will see fewer physical checks with factory to ship clearances and risk-based systems reducing the delays that take place at the ports. On the tax front, the proposal to make minimum alternate tax a final tax at a lower rate is being seen as a major move towards certainty and dispute reduction. Also, measures to simplify penalty proceedings, lower pre-deposits for appeals and decriminalise minor procedural offences signal a shift from enforcement-heavy administration to a more facilitative approach now. The budget also looks outward, easing investment norms for overseas individuals and strengthening market access as India seeks deeper integration with global capital and value chains. So how will these measures help make India easier to do business in? Also, how will they strengthen the overall business climate in the country? To discuss this and more, we are joined by two distinguished guests. So let me begin by introducing them to you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on this edition of Perspective Mr. Saurabh Sanyal, Secretary General of the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry of India, ASSOCHAM. Mr. Sanyal, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Sansad TV. I'm also delighted to welcome Dr. Rajiv Ranjan, former Secretary, Government of India. He's also served as former Chief Secretary, Government of Tamil Nadu. Dr. Ranjan, glad to have you join us on this telecast as well. Welcome to the program. To you, Mr. Sanyal, first. The budget 2026, we see that it reinforces the ease of doing business aspect as the pillar of growth and development, with focus on four key areas: digitisation, tax certainty, investor access, litigation reduction, and there are several others as well. To begin with, from an industry perspective, how significant and timely are these announcements towards strengthening the country's business climate?
I think, good evening Tina ji and all the viewers. I think the 2026-27 Union Budget has laid a roadmap for the Viksit Bharat. Especially in the ease of doing business, I would cover it in some different heads. As you rightly brought out, the notification of the new income tax framework, which is a time-bound with approvals, and they are faster dispute resolution mechanisms. They are very positive steps towards the certainty and predictability. So this is a very good initiative taken by the Government of India and by the Honorable Finance Minister by announcing these frameworks. We also welcome the integration of the multi-agency cargo clearances through a single window clearance, which has already been stated by you, and the proposed customs integrated system, which will also significantly reduce the transaction time and the compliance costs. So these are very major reforms which have been taken in this budget. Now, if I come to the MSMEs, I'll just quickly cover that the 10,000 crore SME growth fund and the top-up of the Self-Reliant India Fund with rupees 2,000 crore. These have added value to the reform measures significantly, and the efforts to strengthen the MSME ecosystem are really visible now. Complementing this is a comprehensive push around the trade receivables discounting system, TREDS. This is also a very significant reform which has been taken place. Now, coming to the digital economy, the National Destination Digital Knowledge Grid, high-tech tool rooms to be established by CPSEs are very good initiatives which have been taken by the Honorable Finance Minister, and this is also a very forward-looking measure. Next, I come to the sustainability and environment, which has not been mentioned by you, though there is an outlay of rupees 20,000 crore over the next 5 years for carbon capture, utilization and storage. These technologies will reflect continued focus on the clean energy, green manufacturing, and climate resilient infrastructure. So, these are my specific points on the ease of doing business, which will help grow the economy and take us towards Viksit Bharat by the year 2047.
Sure, we'll come back to talk about some of the other measures which may be needed, most importantly in aspects of implementation for the longer term growth trajectory. Let me bring in Dr. Ranjan into the discussion as well. Dr. Ranjan, Mr. Sanyal has already given us an overview of some of the biggest announcements and their importance, but one of the biggest highlights that I wanted to take up with you is MAT, which has been made a final tax at a lower rate, which is 14%, and that is being described as a major step towards tax certainty. How significant, according to you, is this in reducing the disputes that went on for a long period of time, but most importantly, in improving the confidence of investors?
Thank you, Ninaji. It's been very good that what you brought out and Mr. Sanyal has given in detail, but we should also look at it in terms of that this has been an ongoing work which the government has given a lot of importance to over the last few years.
That's right.
And last decade, we have seen enormous amount of progress being made. You may recall, just to put it into context, that the government was very keen to improve the ease of doing rankings, and if you recall earlier the World Bank used to have a EODB ranking, and India had earlier, you see, in 2014 we had a very low rank of 142nd. The lower rank is a better aspiration, and what I want to tell you, in just 5 years from 2014 to 2019, India could improve the rank to 63rd. And after it was discontinued, if you recall, World Bank discontinued it in 2020. So we climbed 79 ranks in 5 years. And after that, it's further accelerated. And if you see last year's budget itself and this year's budget is the icing on the cake. And that's why I said that it's an ongoing work which is happening both at the center and state level to get more FDI. So coming back to your specific question, to attract global business and investment, this MAT, exemption from minimum alternate tax to all non-resident Indians who pay tax on presumptive basis. As you know, MAT was introduced to bring into tax net zero tax companies, which in spite of having earned substantial book profits and having paid handsome dividends do not pay any tax due to various tax concession and income tax, incentives which were there. So all this has happened. Now MAT is proposed to be made a final tax with reduction in tax rate of final tax to 14% from 15%. Now this is very clear, and set off using available MAT credit to be allowed to an extent of 1/4 of the tax liability in the new regime. This brings it very big, the clarity is there, tax buyback for all types of shareholders as tax capital gains. So all this is, to my mind, a very welcome step. We also should know that the India is very keen to attract as much FDI and to position India as a very attractive destination for global investors. We have been quite successful in that. The idea is to improve global competitiveness for Indian companies, and for that the regulatory clearances, reduce bureaucracy, red tape, all this has been a very going. GST reforms, IT reforms have contributed to it. So as I said, the announcements in the current budget is the icing on the cake, and the MAT is certainly a very, very useful addition in that front.
That's right. I'll start with the point that you made, that the measures that have been announced in the budget, it's sort of an icing on the cake, because these were reforms that were being undertaken over the past decade. These reforms we've seen how have helped us move towards digital governance, towards a more trust-based regulation. Mr. Sanyal, is it safe to say, based on your experience and based on how the industry has reacted to these measures over the last 10 years, but also now in the manner that the budget 26-27 has placed ease of doing business at the heart of India's growth strategy, can we say that India is now in a phase where compliance is no longer a barrier to our growth?
Absolutely, Tina ji. This has been amply clarified by the Honorable Finance Minister during the budget announcements. on the 1st of February, and also reiterated by the Honorable Prime Minister later in the post-budget discussion, that this is a trust-based budget. It lays down a lot of thrust on the trust with the individual taxpayer and with the corporates. So industry is very happy and very glad to accept this budget in a very enabling budget in a very big way, and I'm sure this is going to give out dividends in the next 4 to 5 years, where we are proceeding towards Viksit Bharat. This is actually, as I said earlier, it is a roadmap to Viksit Bharat. Also, the foreign investors have been given a very good look for investing in India, and this will bring out the FIIs to the tune of $36 billion, which were removed in the last few years. This is likely to get accelerated in the new incentives which are and reforms which have been announced by the government of India. And I personally feel that these FIIs and FDIs will start trickling in from the word go, that is immediately when the steps get implemented in due course.
That's right. I think a lot of the problems, the bottlenecks, the barriers, we can put it that way, over for several years that perhaps persisted in the Indian business climate, Dr. Ranjan, was that the confidence was lacking. Most importantly, the regulatory hurdles. So whoever you spoke to would talk about the multiple layers of hurdles when it came to regulation. Now that has been eased at multiple levels. It's been a consistent effort, like both of you have pointed out. So now what we are seeing is higher investment limits for the overseas individual investors, as you pointed out. There are also clarity measures, tax clarity measures. Can we say that through these measures and through the new announcements, we've succeeded in sending out a message to the investors, to the global capital, that India is one country where now uncertainty is reducing at a very fast pace? We give that confidence that come invest in India. You said FDI has increased sharply, but in order to put our economic growth on a much higher trajectory, these numbers need to consistently flow in. The money needs to keep flowing in to take care of our growth. Most importantly, because we have a Viksit Bharat vision inside, and we need to keep up with that momentum.
Yes, very much. As you mentioned, now we are on the process, looking at it from clearance to compliance reforms. So India is now, gone much ahead from simply tinkering with simple, just regulatory simplifying procedures, to having a risk-based compliance systems and outcome-based systems which are trust-based regulation. And in that context, you may recall that a lot of changes have happened. The Jan Vishwas Amendment Provisions Act 2023, if you recall, decriminalized the 183 provisions across 42 acts, covering many domains. So many cases, criminal liability for minor and technical offences were taken away. This was further followed up in Jan Vishwas 2025 bill, where 355 provisions amending 288 provisions for decriminalization have taken place. So this has enhanced the ease of doing business, ease of living. So this in a big way, and in addition to the single window system, because you were mentioning there is a plethora of systems across, because anybody who has to do business has to set up some facility at the state level. He has to also look at large amount of paperwork which is needed. So which is what is done is the National Single Window System, the NSWS, which is a digital platform which guides in applying for getting various approvals at different levels. Now 32 central government departments, which are the important departments which give clearances for putting up businesses, and 32 state governments have access. And when I saw last time, more than 8 lakh approvals have been given since its launch. And there are other single window digital platforms like Parivesh for environment clearances, eGram Swaraj portal, and variety of them. In addition, state level reforms are there, where each state has been taking, the individual states have taken their own work. I am more familiar with Tamil Nadu, where I served as Chief Secretary, and I can tell you Tamil Nadu is one of the most developed and industrialized states, which had taken a lot of steps, like the introduction of single window clearance system very long back. And I also was there as industry secretary, so I can tell you with personal knowledge that the digitized approvals alongside land reforms, all these things have happened. Effective monitoring system for industrial effluent treatment system, so all these things have happened along with other progressive states like Andhra Pradesh. Many of them have taken steps in this regard, which has made the structural reforms supporting ease of doing business, and this has helped the regulatory system to become facilitative, and that has definitely given a very good atmosphere for attracting FDI.
In fact, I had that question in mind for you, that we often discuss the central reforms, but the actual problem, where the investors face the real problem, is the state level bottlenecks. And glad to hear that based on your experience, you've shared with us some of the steps that various states are undertaking, especially you spoke about the state of Tamil Nadu, where you served as Chief Secretary. So let me take a similar question to Mr. Sanyal. Mr. Sanyal, from your members' feedback, which are the states which we can say are currently setting the benchmark in creating a more business-friendly governance setup?
I can recall that Gujarat is one of them, Uttar Pradesh is the second one, and the southern states, as was rightly brought out by Dr. Rajiv Ranjan ji, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, they are the most friendly states as far as ease of doing business is concerned. They are going to get a big fillip with this current union budget. I am sure their budget sessions will start now, and the ease of doing business in these states will further improve and further inspire the industry in getting domestic investments into the mainstream. Also, the reforms such as the rationalization of buyback taxation and alignment with the capital gains framework, this has also been enhanced with clarity, fairness and investor confidence. So with these measures also in place, particularly they will be beneficial for the minority stake shareholders and will contribute to deeper and more efficient capital markets. So these are some of the things which I can think of. Also in the semiconductor side, the AI side, also a huge allocation has been done to the tune of almost 40,000 crore. And this will benefit and help the new age industries, the new emerging technology and startups. So this is also going to be giving a big fillip to the technology sector, and this will also help us in promoting them. The industry is very, very poised and very vibrant and inspired that this sector will also boom. So these are a couple of points from the industry which I can think of.
That's right. I mean, that's an important point that you made, that digital compliance, there are faceless systems. Most importantly, AI has been brought in, so that AI-based scrutiny that you spoke about. These are all measures that have simplified, made it much more easier for the MSMEs and made compliance more technology intensive, making it much more simpler and easier to understand, more transparent also. But let me take a question now on the global competitiveness. We've spoken about how we've been taking step after step to strengthen the domestic ecosystem. But when we want India to become an important pillar in the global value chain, the question to you first, Dr. Ranjan, is that in a world where we are seeing capital moving very, very quickly, that there are reforms that India has already undertaken. It has begun to show results over the past decade or so, but it's a globally competitive market, and compared to other emerging markets which are vying for the same kind of investments, where do we need to move very swiftly and efficiently?
I just wanted to mention that India has attracted a lot of FDI because of a lot of active steps being taken, proactive steps taken to simplify business procedures, enhance transparency, reduce compliance burden, strengthen investor confidence across sectors. And this is borne out by figures. If you look at it in terms of the last 5 years, there is a growth of 27% in the FDI. So without the Viksit Bharat, you see, the point we need to look at is that 2047 roadmap for Viksit Bharat. where we look at strengthening global value chain linkages is very important. So we are looking at global supply chain, looking at how we can improve the global competitiveness. I recall long back I used to work in National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council. This was set up long back by the government, and after that it was later on followed up, and that is why we have today the National Manufacturing Program, where we push manufacturing, how we can improve. Basically, the basic tenet was how to improve competitiveness across in the Indian industry, and it should be global competitiveness. That means when we talk about competitiveness, it should be with respect to global competitiveness. And for that, the efforts which are there, so I particularly want to mention about labor laws, because this was one of the major issues where 29 regulations across, so that has been put into 4 labor codes. That's a very significant and important thing which government has done. And in addition to that, tax compliance issues on the income tax side, simplification of the codes and all that, we know all. GST 2.0. GST, again, I had worked there earlier in the GST Council, and I can tell you that the GST 2.0 reforms is a major thing in terms of simplifying. Now there are only 5 and 18% primary rates, and this has led to a lot of clarification regarding classification disputes, and a lot of ease of doing business has happened because of that. The way the system is there, technologically faceless, and that is how we are able to have a world-class system today when it comes to a GST system. So, in addition, we have many other things which are like the digital Gati Shakti, database. All these things are very, very useful from a perspective of international competitiveness, and gives confidence to the international community that India is on the right path. And recently, if you look at what has happened in the last week about the trade deals with the India-EU trade deal, the India-US, that was the agreement, I would say India-EU trade agreement and India-US trade deal, which details will be forthcoming. So all this gives confidence. On top of it, we already have it with Australia, UK, and many other countries. And with UAE, we have a framework with the Gulf countries. So all this clearly shows that the Indian market is valued, and Indian economy is seen as the place where people want to come and invest. And we have put all the wherewithal, the system is working.
That's right. The manner in which we are, inking FTA after FTA with several countries. So close to a dozen in recent years. 3 big ones in just the first 2 months. In fact, two big ones in just the first 2 months of 2026, Mr. Sanyal. So we're doing a lot when it comes to preparing ourselves to open up our markets and, harness the full potential of these deals that we are signing with countries. But from an industry perspective, what more can be done to make us more globally competitive, especially when we are competing with countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, who already have an established place in the global value chain, and we need to divert that kind of attention to India. We've managed somehow in some of the sectors, but when we want to become a reliable partner and reliable country in the global supply chain, perhaps I think these reforms need to be consistent and much more bigger and visible in nature.
Actually, Tina ji, if you see that we signed almost 9 FTAs in the past 2 to 3 years with almost 37 countries across the globe. And the most significant has been the recent reduction of traffic by the US government towards India, which has grossly reduced the tariff even compared to our neighbors like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Vietnam, which we were just speaking about, Indonesia, etc. So this will give a very big fillip to our Indian exporters, especially in the textile, in the leather, in the other plastics industries. To start there, they will accelerate the exports growth in these countries, and therefore there will be a very big fillip for investments from across the globe to India. especially from these FTA countries. So, because they have signed a free trade agreement and many products have been on zero tariff, so that's a very good move. That's a very good move because the global companies will be establishing businesses in India. Not only FDIs will come, not only FIIs will return back, but also their technologies will be coming here and there will be a lot of job growth. So this way I see a very, very good future leading to the Viksit Bharat by 2020, 2047. And even before that, I think our growth rate might accelerate to more than $10 trillion within next 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
That's right. That consistency in reformative and transformative measures have already begun to show results, and that indicates, that shows in India's resilient growth. We continue to remain the fastest growing major economy for the fourth consecutive year, and the predictions by several international agencies, of course, show a growth rate around more than 7%. Dr. Ranjan, as we wrap up the conversation and we turn our attention to our Viksit Bharat vision, we've spoken about how that roadmap has been strengthened over the past decade or so to help us move closer to our vision. And in that context, you spoke about some major structural reforms. You spoke about GST, Jan Vishwas. Then there's also the IBC. There are digital approvals that we've already spoken about. Also, not to forget the labor codes. But as we move ahead with a very strong vision inside the 2047 goal, what is the next frontier going to be? Where should be the next big bang reform focus on to capitalize on the maximum potential that we have?
This is ongoing reforms and the world is very uncertain. So that is why we need to put our house in order, which is what we need to prepare. Now, that is where you look at it, strengthening our competitiveness and self-reliance in critical areas, especially deep technologies, is what India is trying to do, whether it's semiconductor, whether it is quantum, so there are very clear and conscious steps in a strategic way to look at improving competitiveness, looking at the global value chain. And in this regard, if you look at that is where the trade deals become very important, especially with the USA and with the European Union. And that is how we need to very quickly reform and make sure that our other sectors also become competitive while we protect our agriculture and protect MSMEs. But at the same time, the barriers, the tariff barriers and other systems needs to improve so that we are globally competitive. And also at the same time, looking at strategic core areas where self-reliance becomes very important, and from defense preparedness issue. And because of the global uncertainties, we need to have a system where we are able to inspire confidence in our growth. So when we are looking at being the third largest, from fourth largest to third largest economy, we are looking at it in a very definite time frame, and also taking advantage of the business friendly environment that we are creating. We are looking at increasing investment, but it is also on strength of technology and using the reform measures, as I mentioned, is to improve the innovation potential of the economy. And that is the thing which we have 1 trillion rupees Jan Anusandhan bill. We are trying to look at areas of technology where we can improve, more R&D coming in strategic areas. So this is very important to have an innovation driven economy where the AI, the artificial intelligence, is going to change quite a way the work is going to be done. So we have to position ourselves. So the forthcoming global summit on AI. So these are all important things which India is strategically planning to do. And like the semiconductor thing which got into late, but now with a vengeance, we are trying to ensure that we are gaining ground. So all this adds up to the picture of the roadmap which we have for Viksit Bharat, and consistent growth of 7 to 8% has to be achieved. At the same time, we need to look at the innovation driven economy and increasing momentum.
Absolutely. So you've summarized it up in terms of how India has been working on that roadmap, not just to strengthen its business climate, but to most importantly strengthen India's position as a global investment and innovation hub, something that Dr. Ranjan also stressed upon. Time allows us to take up only that much on the program, gentlemen. Thank you once again for joining us and sharing your insights with us and our viewers. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.